Hello, this is the video for Tuesday, January 5th for 11th grade English. And I'm going to walk you through the most important thing that we did today, which was present the final and how the final will be done. Today, I'm going to talk you through what it is, and then tomorrow we'll practice it. So it's going to be a really good couple of days for you to get your head around what is expected of you through the end of the year in this class, which is really just the next 2.5 weeks. Today we're reflecting on True Grit as our model for kind of a practice final. And so you can see that this stem here is True Grit defies the Western myth. We started by looking at these slides to understand the film. And if you're watching this, you might not have seen the film, so I don't want to give it away exactly, but I encourage you to look through those slides when you've seen it, starting at 185, to just look at some of the cinematography effects. I'm not testing you on it, but it's fascinating. And then we wondered, what are some of the major themes of this story? And there are so many. You can include what you believe to be the theme in your stem. You could talk about how Maddie is this empowered young girl, or talk about the unlikely friendship between Maddie and Rooster, her father figure. You could think about the ways that so many characters defy stereotype. LaBeef is this Texas Ranger who's got all swagger and annoys everybody, but then he ends up being the hero at the end with Rooster. Or the fact that every time an Indian appears in the film, an American Indian, they're so often not what the stereotypical culture tells us they will be. They're not downtrodden victims only. They're also landowners, wealthy farmers, they're doctors. They've made this land a part of their life and they're not letting go. So it defies the idea of the Indian as the disappearing Indian, the myth of the disappearing Indian. There's so many things that you could discuss, but you'll see what we chose to discuss today in our final. So the rhetorical précis is the structure that we're going to be using. I'm going to talk through that a little bit. Our final unit will be about the Civil War. We're going to explore texts focused on memorial, and in particular, we'll look at Confederate statues next week. We have a new structure to use to help you work through those texts. It is called a précis. It is very simply a summary paragraph, analyzing what a text says and does. We are giving you the structure. We want you to adhere to the structure tightly in your paragraph that you write. Sentence 1 will be the name of the piece along with its author, and you'll explain the claim, explain the assertion or the theme. Sentence 2, you're going to explain how the author does this. Sentence 3, you'll explain the author's apparent purpose. And lastly, you'll look at the audience for the piece. So this structure we'll practice today, we'll practice tomorrow, and then every day next week we'll practice the claim finding. Because for your final, you will conduct 2 analyses of 2 different texts. We'll give you a bunch of choices, and for each one you're going to write a paragraph. And so in short, your final will be to write 2 excellent analysis paragraphs, one for 2 different texts. So we practiced with True Grit today. And here is kind of the Mad Libs blank worksheet version of that paragraph that I'm suggesting that you use faithfully today and tomorrow. By the time you're writing your own, if this structure feels good to you, you can kind of break free of it. But until you've mastered this, it's difficult to move into the abstract space. You need something to hang your hat on first. So we used it, popped around and put in the words that we thought fit each blank in class, and we came up with a paragraph that I'll show you about True Grit at the end here. Going through some other models, which you're welcome to look at as well. So our claim was that Charles Portis, in his book True Grit, defies the myth of the Wild West. So we went back to that earlier week on the myth of the West and how it should be a landscape of cowboys and violent Indians and Everybody is lawless. And it isn't that. There's a lot of complications to that in the book that we have. So we focused on Maddie in particular. Sentence 1, to mimic the structure that we need to use, we said Charles Portis, in his novel True Grit, claims that the myth of the West was just that, a myth, and in fact contained depths of complexity in its characters and its conflicts. Sentence 2, how? Portis supports his claim by endowing a little girl with a protagonist role in the narrative, thus challenging the traditional imagination that all prominent people of the Wild West are men, equestrians, gunslingers, cowboys. So we listed those archetypes of the West. Sentence 3, why? What's the purpose of that? The author's purpose is to point out Maddie's independence and tenacity in order to reveal the ingenuity of women living on the Western Plains, paving the way for the increased rights and suffrage in the early 20th century. So this is my claim. Why? What's the purpose of creating a character with such depth? Well, I think that is right. I think the American woman on the frontier is this new woman who is going to be a counter-submissive, fighting hard for her rights. So I'm bringing in my own perspective, but that's what a good piece of writing does. And then you can disagree with me. A good piece of writing probably should have people disagreeing with it. Lastly, sentence 4, to whom, who's the audience? The author writes in a bold, unafraid tone for the audience of readers who might otherwise think Maddie to be a stereotypical, prim little girl. So we took those 4 sentences, collapsed out all of the spaces to create this paragraph, exact same language, it's just all together now. And it's a beautiful look at what the précis can be. You do not have to do any of that today for homework. It's your final. Today your homework is practicing with the content here. So you're going to have to get good at finding that claim and quickly explaining the claim. This is your kernel sentence. True grit defies the Western myth. You are to expand that into a sentence as compound and complex as you can. And that's what we did today in class. So thanks for checking this out. We'll see you tomorrow.